Week 11 of the 2025 college football season is in the books. As a result, the College Football Playoff Committee has given us their second of 6 College Football Playoff Rankings releases. Welcome to Rankings Reaction, presented by Allstate. First and foremost, a very happy Veterans Day to all of those who valiantly served our country and allow us jokers to talk about college football up here on the set. Alongside former NFL QB Matt Sims, Skubie Mageza is here as well. I am Sam Ravech. We will have Heather Dinich, the authority on all things college football playoff, in just a bit, guys. Chat, please. Those of you who are watching on the College Football YouTube page on ESPN, please interact with us. We're going to try to answer some of your questions as the show goes along. We're going to have some very happy fan bases. We're going to have some not so happy fan bases here. Let's get right into it. One of the biggest questions coming into this day: would Texas A&M jump past Indiana for the 2 seed? Answer to that question: no. The top 5 remain unchanged. Texas Tech does leap over Ole Miss after their win against BYU. And speaking of the Cougars, they drop 5 spots all the way down to number 12. Texas, the biggest beneficiary. They jump safely into the field now at number 10. OU and BYU at 11 and 12 would get bumped for the remaining 2 highest-ranked conference champions, which, as you see in the bracket right now, projected as Miami. We'll get to that in just a second. And South Florida, the group of 5, finally jumping in the rankings this week. I think it would have surprised nobody if the top 6 remain unchanged, but there could be a discussion about Indiana, the way that they won at Penn State, and what Texas A&M has done, undefeated at 9-0, possibly usurping Indiana at the number 2 spot. They remain unchanged. What do we think about what the committee did, leaving those teams as is?
I'm okay with it right now. I am. I'm comfortable with it. I think that all 3 teams, like in that top part of our category right now, there's a lot of games to be played. Of course, Texas A&M with some of the more exciting matchups still to come, right? And it really just goes down to that Texas football game to end the season. They got South Carolina, then Stanford, then Texas. So I think that Texas A&M football game, the battle for the state, will decide a lot, right? And that'll have tremendous effects on the rest of the bracket, of course, but I feel pretty comfortable about where the bracket is right now.
Yeah, the committee chair on the Rankings Reaction show said the longest discussion that they had was the one between Texas A&M and Indiana. And what they did was give Indiana the slight edge because of how they are defensively and how they are offensively. I think Indiana has showed us that they can beat you in many different ways, but the best part that we look at with Indiana is their defense and how they play. I think for Texas Tech, offensively, they can beat you in other ways, running the ball, throwing the ball, whatever that may be. But defensively, I see them struggling to stop the run a little bit. I mean, when you take away all the sacks that they've got, I mean, they're giving up over 5.5 yards per carry. That's a concern for me. And Indiana overall, I think defensively, they're sound at all levels. And then offensively, we saw them struggle against Penn State, which, by the way, has a great defense, right?
Yeah.
Penn State, great defense. We saw them struggle, but when they had to have it, they went out and got it.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, Scoob, 100%. And, as the weeks continue on, you know I love Indiana, right? You know how much I've been banging on the table, right, to support this football team. But there is a side of the offense that I am a little concerned with as I continue to watch film on them. There isn't that explosive factor to them at times. If they're not running the football super effectively, it is very difficult for them, in the passing game especially, to create explosive plays. Now, Marcel Reed, I mean, man, he drops back to pass, and it's like, it could be any time, right? It could be any time with the receivers that they have. The offensive line has they've moved pieces around, and it seems like they're finally solidified and getting a little bit more consistent with that group that they have. But, right now, I would just say, we got to favor Indiana. They took care of business. Mendoza had a Heisman-like moment on the road. Penn State, although being what they are this year, that defense is still super talented. So, hey, they're in a good position here to finish out the year.
It's all but guaranteed that those at least 3 teams, Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M, I'll throw Alabama in, according to our All-State playoff predictor, all have a 95% chance or better to reach the college football playoff.
Like their chances.
Right. Those are pretty good odds there.
Yeah.
Is there anything that Texas A&M could do, aside from an Indiana loss, to jump into, the top 2?
I mean, just like Matt said earlier, you got to beat Texas towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And it's got to be convincing. Right?
It's an Indiana loss, of course. I mean, Ohio State maybe stubbing their toe against Michigan. I mean, that would really be about it. I think if all three end the season undefeated, I think it stays exactly the way that it is right now.
Okay, fair enough. I think you're going to have some Aggie fans there that might question, hey, we're number one in strength of record right now. So you have those teams play our record. Let's see what happens. That is unfortunately not how it works.
I'm not including the championship game, right? The Big Ten, the SEC. Now, if they're the SEC champion, right? And then, of course, if the other two knocks one of them off, of course, I think then they're going to move into that 2 spot.
All right, let's head to the other end of the bracket where one of the biggest questions this week was just how far would BYU fall after their 22-point loss on the road to Texas Tech. The committee gave us their answer. Start with BYU dropping 5 spots all the way down to number 12, from 7 to 12. What does that say to you guys about what the committee thinks about not only BYU, but about this Big 12 conference?
I think it speaks more to BYU and how has survived and advanced throughout the season this year. You know, it's like if you go and look at their schedule this year, just the close one against Utah. Okay, Iowa State was a big-time win. A win against West Virginia. Colorado was a close victory. You know, there's something about BYU that throughout the year, you know, you've seen my hesitation about them, right? It's just like, what do they do extremely well? I like the defense. They can run the football. The passing game, there's a lot to be desired. So I think the committee just taking the big picture. We all have heard the committee enough, right? When they're watching the film, I think they take into that much more in an account than they give credit for.
Yeah.
And I really believe that when you watch BYU, it's like you love the way they play. You can see that they play with pride. But there is something off about just the fact that maybe they not have as many dudes as some of these other teams in the top ranks, right? And they can't really just dominate, right, or impose their will on all the teams that they've seen this year. So I think that's a part of it, right? There is just no appeal that way for BYU.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it for BYU,
move on.
Only 67 yards rushing. They were dominated up front. Texas Tech ran for 149.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was one of those games where Texas Tech continued to do what they've done all season. I think we need to remember that they're undefeated with their starting quarterback under center, right?
Yeah.
The only game that they lost against Arizona State, Will Hammer was in at quarterback, and they almost pulled a comeback towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
It was a wild ending, by the way. And then they lost that game close. I think for Texas Tech, you say, all right, they have one of the best defensive fronts in the entire country. And on top of that, they can impose their will with their running game and so on and so forth. But I think it is time for us to welcome in our guest because we are excited to have Heather Dinich on the program, as we do always, the judge, the decider of all things that are college football, right?
That's what I was going to say. Like, all of this is relatively great. It's great conversation, but frivolous because you have all the answers that we we have questions
Enough
to.
of us, right, Skubie?
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on. We'll bring you on the 2 loss team conversations. When we're talking about, you know, a Texas, an Oklahoma, a Notre Dame at the top, ahead of those 2 teams at number 10. What does it tell you about how the committee views these 2 lost teams heading into the second week of rankings?
Well, I think the fact that Texas Tech jumped as high as it did and BYU fell below those 2 lost teams says as much as the result about that game as it does those 2 lost teams. Because BYU dropped to 12, Texas is now safe. There's your 2 loss team that's the most interesting of the whole batch you mentioned, because for 2 reasons. 1, they're in that 10 spot, which is the safest place to be. But 2, because no team in the country has a better chance to impress the selection committee. It starts on Saturday against Georgia, then they have the Aggies, right? 2 top 5 opportunities. The 10 spot might be fleeting because of that reason. It's a double-edged sword, right? Notre Dame has no margin for error against Pitt. A lot of things can still happen here, but I think that pecking order stayed the same because of the head-to-head with Texas over Oklahoma, but they got boosted by default because BYU dropped. That's the reality of that situation.
Which one of those teams has the most margin for error? You said Notre Dame doesn't. I think we're all with you in accordance that they pick up their 3rd loss. They're likely out. So between Texas and Oklahoma, who has the most leeway?
I would say Texas, only because beyond Alabama, losing to Alabama, what do you have to make up for it? You've got to win against Michigan. You don't have the head-to-head against Texas. There's more questions about the Sooners. If Texas beats one of those top 5 teams, I don't care which one it is, you're looking at a pretty strong 3-loss resume. Losing on the road in the opener to Ohio State's not going to keep you out.
No.
Losing to Florida's not good. That's still there, but I don't see it as much of an issue if you've got that resume. However, a 3-loss Texas to me is like 3-loss Alabama last year.
Yeah.
Where they're in the top 12, but they're out of the playoff.
Okay.
It seems like that's how it would fall, because that was going to be one of my questions. Everyone in the chat right now is talking about that. We have Longhorn Nation Real in the YouTube chat standing up for Texas, and I think as a 3-loss team, wouldn't it make – we always talk about what have you done for me lately. That win against Texas A&M, and if they lose to Georgia, let's say a 3-point loss, and then they end up beating Texas A&M towards the end of the season. Let's just say Texas A&M finds a way, right, to end up going to the second spot when they beat them. How much of a difference does that make?
For the Aggies? If they were
for Texas.
For Texas, if they were to beat them, I don't know that it makes that much of a difference. I mean, you're talking about being a top 5 team, right, regardless of where the Aggies are.
2 or 3, okay.
Right, I think. But, you know, the reality is Texas is such a different team if it is able to pull that off. I feel like incremental strides define the Longhorns this year.
Right.
You got to put it all together and have your best day to beat these teams that we're talking about.
Yes.
Because, I mean, if you look at them on film, and you can answer this better than me, there's probably a gap between them that's reflective of the rankings.
I would totally agree with that, Heather.
Okay.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because now I don't have to be the guy that says it. But yeah, I would agree. And when you watch the film of games like Kentucky, right, and Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, and more importantly for Vanderbilt, just the fourth quarter alone, you have concerns overall about just, I guess, the grittiness of this football team, right? And Sarkisian's been saying it all year, right? Just the youth of this football team. And when you're young, you know, hey, it's exciting, it's fun, but to stack wins and be consistent is very difficult. So that's really, I think, the biggest thing for this team going forward is just that establishment of experience in the back half of the season.
It's one of the things why I love the formation of this 12-team playoff. I don't want to go any further because we're already talking about, you know, a couple teams maybe not so deserving of being in the field, but there are so many questions left to be answered in this season. One thing is for certain. The ACC continues to hurt itself any chance that it possibly can this season.
I love her reaction to it.
We're talking about the ACC for all the wrong reasons.
I know we are. And
we are.
You know what? The ACC has 6 losses outside of teams in the Power 4. The Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC have 8 combined between the 3 conferences
Good
this year.
Yeah.
So the chaos in the ACC has left some to question whether or not the conference champion winner will even be in the field. We'll get to that hypothetical in just a second.
Yeah.
But I want to talk to you, Heather, about Miami, who is going to need a lot of help just to reach the ACC title game. They're in the bracket right now, ahead of, let's say, a Georgia Tech, who, according to our Allstate playoff predictor, has the best odds-on chance to get to the ACC title game. Can you explain to people why they are seeing Miami in the bracket and not Georgia Tech right now?
No, because in my projection, in my bracket on ESPN.com, I have Georgia Tech because Miami has a 6% chance to reach the ACC
that high?
championship
Wow,
game.
Right.
6%. So the reason it's in ESPN's bracket is because it's the highest ranked ACC team. But for me, it should be the projected conference champion.
That's very logical.
And at the moment, it would be Georgia Tech. And don't forget, Georgia Tech still has a chance to beat Georgia.
That's right.
I feel like people are just forgetting about
Yes,
Georgia
I know.
Tech.
I mean, like, don't get me started about this. Like, I'm so.
Let's get started.
I'm disappointed, right? Because I just, you know, you heard me last week, right? It's like, why are we discounting Georgia Tech so soon, so quickly after a tough loss to NC State, right? The same team that beat the other team that was in consideration for the top of the ACC. And then Miami, of course, right? Hey, yes, they have some good wins, but there is something about them more recently as you watch them where it's touch and go. There's not a lot of confidence. I feel like they're trying to fill in gaps of like, yo, we're good, man. We're good. We feel great. We're
throwing touchdowns to linemen.
Man, yeah, we can do it all, but there's something behind all of that confidence that I'm a little bit scared of as the season has progressed. And yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I really am. And also because I'm just, I got a little man crush on that quarterback and that football team and Brent Key and how they operate. So, yeah, I'm going to be really excited about that Georgia Tech matchup.
So this week, Miami beat Syracuse, right?
Yep, they did.
Pretty good.
Syracuse is, you know.
They're abysmal. They're really bad.
I was teeing you up to be the bad guy there. Right. So to me, I'm not sure why that justifies the catapult, other than the fact that Louisville and Virginia have just played their way out of this whole conversation of respect.
Was it an
Don't get me started in Louisville.
Was it an overcorrection for them for last week, just maybe having them drop so far behind and seeing the disparity between them and Notre Dame?
I think a little bit of that might have factored into it, but they also talked last week about Miami being inconsistent. Mac Rose, the committee chair, said a week ago today, Miami has to be more consistent. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Yeah.
Syracuse is doing it for you?
And then he went on to say we have a lot of respect for Miami and what they do as a team, if they can just bring it together. You know,
Listen,
these things change on a week-by-week basis. 6-7.
I think he's definitely getting lost, I think, in that when you do put on the film, you do see a lot of NFL football players on Miami's roster, right? The problem is that I just don't see, like, the overall team chemistry getting better as the season has progressed, where it's the opposite with a team like Texas, who would, like, hey, start off slow, but like you could see there is something brewing and getting better each and every week.
I think the bottom line is this. Miami fans, don't get too excited because of where Miami was today.
Yeah.
Because it's deceiving. It's deceiving in the bracket. It's deceiving in the ranking. That's not to say they can't get in this thing.
Right.
But they need a lot of chaos above them, and they need a lot of chaos just to get into the ACC championship game.
Yeah.
It's still a long shot.
Okay, very good. I promised that we would get to the ACC chaos scenario. We will. But the hypothetical there is like having a 8-4 Duke go to the ACC title game, win it, be 9-4, and then put them up against a potential other group of 5 team, say James Madison at 12-1. Highly unlikely that gets to fruition. We can talk about that later on our Allstate playoff predictor.
That'd be awesome, though.
Just a quick thought on that. I mean, it is very unlikely that actually happens, that the ACC champion gets left out.
Remember, in that scenario, though, Duke could have a chance to beat a Georgia Tech team that just beat Georgia, enhance their resume. Last year, there was a 3-loss ACC team, and is it really that different for a 4-loss? Well, Duke lost to UConn, for the love of God.
Don't get this guy started. That's his team.
Big UConn fan.
Best season in a while for Jim Mora. Yeah, no, it's very good. And I think that, again, you're also assuming that Georgia Tech is the team that they're playing in the ACC title game. Like, let's say it's an SMU or somebody that maybe doesn't have that resume. Again, it's like it's chaotic, but it's certainly all.
May I ask just your theory on Pitt? Let's just say, for whatever reason, this might not happen, of course, because we've heard Pat Narduzzi and how he speaks about this game this weekend. But like, let's just say, for whatever reason, they do win this weekend against Notre Dame. The repercussions of that game in your eyes?
Well, for one, Notre Dame's out.
Right.
But two, the ACC respectability level goes up a couple of notches.
Okay.
It's huge for the conference.
Perception-wise,
It's okay that Pitt is playing the best ball in the ACC.
Right.
Everybody can embrace that for a second.
It's got to be somebody. Somebody's got to play the best
They got a good
ball.
quarterback. It's all right. Give credit where it's due. They run the table. I mean, Pitt's the X factor in the college football playoff right now.
What's their percentage? I got to take a look.
Yeah, go check it out.
If Pitt ends up winning out, we're going to go to the Allstate playoff predictor over here. What are their chances? All right, so Pitt's over here. They have their next game against Notre Dame. Right now, we're sitting at 7%. If they end up winning out, they jump up to 93%, the likelihood of them making the college football playoff. I think that definitely brings up some chaos, but then you look at the other teams. Miami goes to 0, Georgia Tech 0. All right,
wow.
SMU. So does this mean we end up in a one-bid situation if Pitt ends up winning out?
I think it's a one-bid situation
Regardless.
the way we sit here right this skinny minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like I said, it could be Pitt. It doesn't matter as long as Pitt is one of the 5 highest-ranked conference champions, and I think it would be. And back to the JMU thing, to your point, JMU's strength of schedule is 115th in the country.
Who's pretty good? Is it Old Dominion? Is that their best? They lost to Louisville, right? That's their only loss.
They lost to a Louisville team that just dropped in the ranking.
All right, enough about Louisville, guys. Come on, let's go.
No.
Everything's fine.
All right.
It's like the world's burning, but everything's fine.
We're bringing up JMU, right? Let's look at their odds right now. They're sitting at 34% to make the playoffs, makes conference championship 95%. Now, if they win out, how far does that jump out? Come on. There we go. 67%. I mean, it's not guaranteed D+. I'll take a D+. I know C's get degrees, but D+ isn't bad.
But that also, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that independent of other
That's
results?
correct. Yeah, that's what I was just
Right?
saying. We're not including what happens.
Damn it, Heather.
Computers.
Just play along.
The computers do things that we just follow sometimes.
Yeah.
You know?
We really appreciate your insight as always, HD, and thank you so much for joining us. Might have been a little bit later than we would have liked, but we know you're busy. We know you're busy.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
can't wait to read that
Thank you,
story. I'll
guys.
tell you that.
Looking
Check it
forward
out on
to
ESPN.com.
Heather Dinich,
Thank you,
the
Heather.
best to ever do it. Thank you so much for watching Rankings Reaction, presented by Allstate. As always, we thank Heather Dinich for joining us as she does every Tuesday. Looking at
the
some
best in the biz.
That's right. Look at some of the comments that we got coming in on the socials. Do they agree or disagree with the rankings? And,
Okay.
So far, I'm seeing some disagreements. We got a lot of. Yeah, you're right. It would be an elite first round. You're also assuming that, as Heather said, Miami
1 through 4 points.
would be
But
in there.
I respect that, yeah.
Yeah, but
Why is Louisville behind Miami? Who makes these rankings?
ask
Listen, sometimes we ask ourselves,
We know why Louisville.
why do we play the games?
Yeah.
Do the games matter?
They should. Let's take a look at the Allstate playoff predictor. And this week, Texas goes between the hedges and takes on Georgia. We have talked about, you see the FPI chance to win. Georgia a little bit. Maybe you can get them the home field advantage there. Whether or not this is a must-win situation for Texas, I think, depends upon what else can happen. It would go a long way for Texas and Coach Sark to go in there and get a win, though, right?
It would definitely. But I just Heather and what we're saying, it does feel like the committee is setting up Texas. If there is a 3-loss football team to make it, they would be the one to do it.
Yeah,
Right? And of course, if it is a Georgia victory or if it is a victory over Texas A&M to end the year, I think that would be the big factor in it. Why you smile when I say that?
Well, does it matter how they lose? What if they get smacked by Georgia?
See, I think that is important, but I still feel like there is a setup, for them to have that success.
I feel like how you win and how you lose is very important. And right now, what we're seeing from Georgia is that I think they're playing their best ball of the year.
Yeah.
The way they played against Mississippi State, I mean, you were down 7 points, and this was the week where we expected to see quite a bit of upsets. But there really wasn't too much of that as we expected from Georgia, from Alabama, and Oregon, right? So the way that Georgia played in this game, down 7-0, and then they just put the foot on the gas and did not let up. I think Georgia has shown us that they can beat you in many different ways. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they can play defense, they can stop the run, they can do all these different things. And Gunnar Stockton has gotten better throughout the season.
Yeah, no doubt.
I love how they've matured as a team. They're resilient as a group, and they play hard-nosed football.
And he's still one of the best coaches in the game, right? I mean, if we had to say who's the best coach in college football, it's Kirby. That is an extra bonus point to them.
I ask you this question. I know we played the game of Georgia-Alabama. The Alabama ended up beating Georgia, but Alabama, to me, right now, can only beat you in one way, with Ty Simpson and throwing the ball. They haven't shown us that they can run the ball. In this moment right now, which team would you not want to see more, Georgia or Alabama?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, honestly, I still think it's Alabama.
Okay, you wouldn't want to see Georgia. You wouldn't want to see Alabama more than Georgia right now, with the way that they're playing right now.
I do think Alabama has the better defense overall.
Okay.
I do think that they have some rising stars. They have stars already at every level, right? And Nikhai Hill-Green played his best game of his career at Alabama last week. The rest of the linebacker crew has been phenomenal, right? And then you got this guy, Yanzer Pierre, who is really emerging as like their number one pass rusher. So that's where I feel like Alabama, I feel a little bit more confident with them as an overall team, right?
Okay.
Now, that being said, Georgia's ability to pound the rock, I feel like is kind of like, you know how I feel about that. When you can run the football, I feel that much better about you as a football team. And they can do it.
There's other teams we got to talk about. We still haven't gotten to Oregon.
We can keep talking about the SEC. I'm cool with that.
We haven't dove into Texas Tech.
We'll keep it in the SEC because while other leagues have kind of just continued to beat up on each other, the SEC just sends its best teams out there week in and week out, and they keep on winning. So that's a good recipe for getting 4, 5, maybe 6 teams into the field of the college football playoff. I doubt 6, but maybe 5 teams. Alabama and Oklahoma play this weekend as well in another massive SEC showdown.
Such a huge game. What's going to happen if
Alabama? I know. Well, Alabama, as you see, FPI gives them a huge chance to win. I picked Oklahoma to win this game because I want to see some chaos, and I do think that their inability to run the ball hurts them, and I think that defensive line can get to Ty Simpson. Although, having said that, we've seen how he has done under pressure this year. Sometimes it's almost better than when he has a clean pocket back there. What do we make of this game?
We know Oklahoma's got a really good defense. The problem is, though, is that the offense side of the football, it's just there's nothing to it. There's no substance to it. When I watch them on film, I just don't see a lot that really makes defenses nervous. Right? And John Mateer and his hero of football, it's been working. I think that all that stuff comes to an end this weekend. So I really do believe that Alabama is that much better of a football team. I do think Oklahoma's defense will keep them in it probably till about late in the third quarter. But then I feel like Alabama will be able to assume control of this.
Wonder if that guy's healthy too. You just saw limping.
Well, that's a big part of it too. It absolutely is. But there's no doubt, right, that there is one guy, Brent Venables, in this college football world. He will risk it all. Right?
What's the recipe? What's the recipe for it?
I was just going to get to that. Yeah.
Send in the patrol every single play.
Pressure. Oklahoma right now, third in the country in sacks. They got 33 in them. And then when we talk about stopping the run, second in the nation. They're going to do the things that they do the things well on defense that Alabama can't do well, right? So you're going to have that going against. I think some strip sacks are going to be huge in this game. You give that offense some short field position. You use some misdirection with John Mateer's legs. You're able to get some quick scores, get some field goals. Those things take care of the ball against this Alabama defense. And I think they can pull off this upset with that way. That's a formula.
No doubt.
Time of possession is a big part of it.
100%. For as good as the defense is, they had not turned over their opponents very much. We saw that change a little bit against Tennessee.
Yeah, good point.
All right, let's move it along here. A huge one in the Steel City. College game day going to Pitt, Notre Dame this weekend. Notre Dame with a big chance at winning this game. In the grand scheme of things, this doesn't mean a whole lot for the Pitt Panthers. It means everything for Notre Dame.
Yeah, it does. And I think Notre Dame is the better football team. And I am excited to just see Heinschel, the young quarterback for Pitt, up against the secondary. He's undefeated. He's playing great. He's seeing the field well. He's very dynamic with his arm. He's creative. But it is the Notre Dame defense to me that has been one of the more improved units in all of college football these past few weeks. And it starts with the secondary. I think the Pitt Panthers are going to have a hard time passing it effectively against this talented secondary.
Yeah, it's going to be the Notre Dame defense making all the they got to make the right plays against this Pittsburgh offense, but I'm looking at this guy right here, number 4. You see the way that he's running the ball? Jeremiah Love, just give him the rock, stand back, and just watch fireworks.
Go.
He's kind of been forgotten about a little bit. After those first 2 games, I feel like folks have kind of almost left him in the backside. I mean, coming in, he was like one of the Heisman favorites, but then we saw him get stopped a little bit at Miami.
Well, nobody knows where to find Notre Dame games, first of all, right? So that's a big part of it, okay? So, we'll just leave it at that. All right.
No, we can find Notre Dame games.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing some of his best ball of the season. Right now, I think they've found more of their identity on offense. But just lean on those guys. Lean on those 2 running backs. And everything should be okay.
We see you guys in the chat. Make sure you check out ESPN.com/Allstate Playoff Predictor. You can check out your team's chances at making the college football playoff, as well as using the tool and pros as well. So don't forget, we also have 2 shows every single Saturday on ESPN's college football YouTube page. Start off your day. Countdown to game day, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, straight up to 9 o'clock at the start of college game day. And then we have got you covered late night, 11 p.m. to midnight Eastern, although, to be fair, we usually go way over that time. So on the college football show every single Saturday streaming live. And then, as always, you can watch us on replay.
Yeah, we would love to go an hour today, but our producer's already rushing us.
Moving along. Let's talk brackets here as we get a look at the projected 12-team bracket. According to what the College Football Playoff Committee has it as right now. Heather was saying, I want to start kind of at the back end of the bracket here with Texas.
Okay.
And then we can fill it out. They're in a good spot as of right now, but that's going to handle itself when they play Georgia this weekend.
I think this is a good matchup for Texas. If this plays out how it is, I think this is a good matchup that favors Texas, right, especially with their defense, too, and their pass rush and Trinidad Chambliss. So I do think that's a favorable matchup.
They'd be on the road.
And they'd be on the road, and I think this is also another favorable matchup for Texas if they were to take on Indiana. I do.
This is back-to-back weeks. You don't like Indiana in the playoffs, but you like them in the regular season.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, this is where we're getting to that time of the year, though. It is about and you know what? It kind of is that way, right? But, like, it is about the matchups, and I just think that structurally, right, Texas is not going to be overwhelmed by what Indiana does offensively. So I feel like that's the biggest part of it. If they can slow down the running game, I think that they'll be able to cover on the outside.
What about depth, too, for Indiana? I think that's a bit of a concern of mine, right?
That is one of the biggest things because Indiana is a team that haven't necessarily been recruiting at the highest level for the last 3 or 4 years, right? Kurt Signetti got there, and then boom, here we are.
Yeah.
Brought in some great transfer portal players. So you saw that this week. A couple of offensive players were hurt. Their best wide receiver hurt. One of their best offensive linemen were hurt.
Yeah.
And he was under pressure, and he had to kind of find out who he could trust with the ball later on down the field. So if they stay healthy, I think they're deadly. But if they do get hurt, it is a problem because they're not as deep as other teams. But let's go ahead and fill this bracket out. And Matt, you've already said you like Texas in this matchup, so let's go ahead and put them there with Indiana. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Georgia's going to beat South Florida. I'm going to take I like Oregon with what they did. 280 yards rushing against Iowa, one of the toughest rushing defenses in the country.
I think that was huge.
Wasn't even playing in the game. It was a hard-nosed football game. They showed us that they can beat you.
Sadiq either.
Yeah, they showed you that they can beat you in multiple ways with the way that they played.
By the way, let me just stop you real quick.
Go ahead.
Miami and Texas Tech. Miami is likely not going to be in the bracket.
Yeah.
So, but we can play the game right now.
We'll play the game. We'll play the game.
This is how it is.
This is the
ESPN.
game within the game right now.
All right.
You know?
EA Sports. All right. Maybe I should give him
I would take
a sponsor
Texas
there. But all right. So this is what we got so far. We got Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State. You love that. A little SEC, a little Big Ten, a little Texas on Texas.
A lot of Texas.
Texas and Indiana, right? You asked us this question, 2.5.
I said
under on if we'll have those Texas teams. And Matt and I said under, and looks like
over under 2.5 teams from the state of Texas to make the playoff. Right now we have 3 in the field.
There you go.
Right now, so that answers that question.
Making it to the next
All
round.
right, so we got the quarterfinals and we got a couple of interesting matchups.
Give me Indiana. Come on.
Okay, there we go.
I said it's a good matchup. I didn't say they'd win it. All right, you know.
All right. Then we got Texas Tech and Texas A&M. This is a good. I think this front seven is going to get after Marcel Reed in ways that he has not been affected before.
But they're up for the Joe Moore Award. That A&M line.
Well, that's part. And I also I like Texas Tech a lot too, and how they can run the football at times. Barrymore's injury is concerning as hell for me.
Does this concern you? Nobody in the country has kicked more field goals in the red zone than Texas Tech has.
Yeah, it's still points. Yeah, their record's still pretty good last time I checked.
You sold me on it.
Just because of that? I mean, come on.
We got to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right? We can't just be kicking field goals.
Across the line.
All right, Oregon, Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Okay.
Julian's saying playing phenomenal ball. We haven't talked about Ohio State, and I mean, this is literally the first time we're bringing it up in this show, so let's go ahead and give them their flowers a little bit. Every single week, you look at Ohio State, turn on that channel, and they're doing exactly what you would expect from a number 1 team in the country. Julian saying 6 out of the last 8 games, over 300 yards passing. Jeremiah Smith, last 2 games, 16 targets, 16 catches, 260 yards. Like,
and I don't have any stats at all, right, to prove it. The defense alone by itself, Ohio State. I think Oregon's gonna have a tough time moving it on them.
Is it as bad of a loss as last year or no?
Well, God, I hope it's not. I mean, just for their sake, but
we apparently got 1 minute. We're going to try to stretch it a little bit longer for y'all. Georgia, Alabama. What are we going with?
Georgia, Alabama. Give me Alabama.
I like Georgia. What are you going with? I like Georgia.
Decision. I'll take Georgia.
There we go. We're outruling Matt here.
I don't
Georgia,
like this. I'm over here by myself, man. It's not cool. I don't like
Kirby Smart's the best coach in the country.
I mean, you're right. I know, but I'm talking about the best quarterback in the country, too.
They got to run the ball, too. You're right. Playoffs, all right? We'll go Texas A&M, Indiana.
There's a lot of truth to that.
How we going here? I think Texas A&M struggles to stop the run, and Indiana is going to be able to pound it here.
I know. It's kind of like just like super talent versus the fundamental. You know, it's like, what do you like?
Who's going to be more
Give me the talented team. Give me Texas A&M.
All right. We're going to Texas A&M here.
And I shouldn't say that Indiana's not
Georgia,
talented,
Ohio
you know
State.
Ohio State. This is, by the way, I think this is exactly what our bracket looked a week ago.
Is that true?
For the championship.
For this show?
I think it was
For the
Ohio.
rankings?
I think we had Ohio State and A&M.
Wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, check that.
We had Alabama up over here. All right, so Ohio State, Texas A&M. I think we're going to come to the same conclusion of Ohio State.
Texas A&M. Oh, okay.
Oh, do you want to say Texas A&M?
Yeah, I want to say Texas A&M.
I can go with Texas A&M. All right.
Oh, what are you doing?
Ohio State, Ohio
What are you
State.
doing?
I got you. We're going to put it back
This is
here.
a glitch.
We got a lot of Big Ten bias going on here.
Texas A&M ends up being a national champion.
All right, let's look at some of the
Scoop's trying to make a spring game the national
from
championship.
socials here. Texas at Georgia, officially a top 10 matchup. Sure is. Sanford is going to be the electric factory. The SEC can literally explode if Texas beats Georgia or Texas A&M.
We might be able to show you that.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's true.
Do we have a chaos bracket?
I think we have a little bit of a chaos bracket here coming up in just a second. We got ESPN Insights, Stats, and Info chiming in. In each year following the inaugural College Football Playoff of 14, the eventual national champion was ranked in the top 3 of the second college football ranking.
All right, well, there you go.
Looking at Ohio State, Indiana, and A&M. Those are the current 3. Hey, we were
We
right
did
on
good.
it.
We did great. We did great. That away, Scoop.
All right, very good. This is our producer's chaos bracket. You can thank Brian Distilio for this.
Let's make this very clear to everybody listening that this is based on the result of this week, not the rest of the
That's
season.
right.
Yeah.
So that is if Texas ends up beating Georgia, Alabama loses to Oklahoma, and am I missing any other chaos?
That's all we got on there.
That's a chaos that we would have, right? So keep that in mind. This is what we came up with if that is to happen.
We have
But still, somehow in the chaos bracket, Miami still made it.
we have Notre
Yeah, because
Dame
right
winning.
now still the highest ACC ranked team.
So the biggest question that we're posing to you guys in the chat here as well is how far do those two teams drop were they to lose? So
and how far does Texas go up?
right. So we're assuming that Georgia's going to drop all the way down from 5 to first team out with a loss at 2 losses. That pains Maddie.
So
Why does that pain
that
you
would
so much?
technically
I mean,
put
because
them
who did they
12th.
lose to?
Alabama and Texas.
And like that's where it's just like, all right, they lost to 2 of the better teams in the country, and
With
they're
the win over the current number 5 in this chaos.
right.
Yeah,
That's where it's like, man, it's just hard for me to see a team like that's been so good for the entire season.
But where would you put them, right? So they're at 5,
Yeah.
and then you would have 2 losses. So right now, Ole Miss would jump
Well, I
up
can't
because
really
they have
say
one
where I would
loss.
put them because then I would be too much of
To
a
SEC bias.
Yeah, for sure.
But
for
like
sure.
you can't put a 2-loss team ahead of a 1-loss team, right?
Sure, I can. Yeah.
where would
But I
we
mean,
put
is it logical? No.
Because Texas beat them, right? Miami's in the ACC, highest ACC ranked team, so that's the reason why they would be there as a 2-loss team. Oklahoma, they ended up beating Alabama, so you got to go in there, right?
Right.
Alabama drops to 10 after their loss to Oklahoma. Texas jumps to 7, and then at that point, and unless you're more so inclined to kick out Notre Dame. How about that?
Ooh.
Again,
because that's a 2-loss team.
Yes.
Don't get this guy started on Notre
Well,
Dame.
I just want to remind everybody this is not the current bracket. This is what would be producers' chaos
We're just
bracket.
having fun.
We're thinking, Brian, we're having fun.
If the
This
chaos happens this week,
weekend.
yeah.
I do
Let's
want
do that.
to. I want to ask the question. This is more of a philosophical question.
Before I go.
At what point does head-to-head start to go down a little bit on the rung as we start to see some more data points? We start to play some more games. Like, is it the end-all, be-all? Is it always going to be that way? Like, we're so far on the season, we've gotten some more data, right?
That right there,
That's true.
what you said, so far out into the season. I think head-to-head matters more now than it did earlier on in the season because you already heard
Matters
the
more
committee
now.
check. Yes, it matters more now than it did earlier because
Okay.
if you lost early on in the season, you were a different football team, right? We know Alabama isn't the same team that lost to Florida State. If they run it back today, is that going to look the same way that it did?
Probably
right?
not.
Yeah,
probably
probably
not.
not.
So
Yeah.
I think you improve as the season goes along and head-to-head starts to matter now
Right.
a little bit more. But we're about to say goodbye. One thing on our chaos bracket that we would have here, if let's say, this is what I've suggested.
If Notre Dame lost?
Yeah. If Notre Dame would, if Georgia loses to Texas, Georgia goes back to 9. So we don't keep them out like you said. Notre Dame is a 2-loss team that ends up being pushed backwards because right now Georgia's resume is better than what Notre Dame's is.
Wow.
But Alabama,
Right?
beat
You were
Georgia.
upsetting a
Alabama
lot of
beat
people.
Hold on. Can we compare them real quick before we get out of here? Resume.
Yeah.
How do we get to
Add
Notre
that-
Dame,
add
Sam?
there.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, Notre Dame here. All right. So this is what they're currently looking like. Strength of schedule overall 41st. Strength of schedule remaining 66.
This is making your point for you right here, Matty.
I rest my case. Thank you,
Right?
Skubie.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, but this is what it comes down to, right? For Notre Dame, it's just the fact that like 2 of the best games that they played this year, they came out on the losing end of it.
4
And since-
points.
Yep, 4. I don't care. It's 4 less than you needed, right? And that's really what it comes down to. So it's like
Fair.
we can't be like, oh, it was this, it was that. It was like, listen, you lost at home, right? You lost at home to a team that, I know they're in the top 5 and all that, but still, an L's an L. So
To everyone that loves chaos like we do, hopefully that kind of happens this week, and then we have told you the future.
But I will say that's a different type of game. If they were to line up again, right, it's a little bit of a different outcome, I think.
All right, so next Tuesday, we're going to come back in here. We're going to have an L is an L t-shirts for everybody.
An L is an L is an L. L, yeah.
That's right. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching Rankings Reaction presented by Allstate. For Matt Skube, I'm Sam HD. We always appreciate her joining us. We will see you on Saturday as well as Week 12 commences.
Yeah, don't take us too seriously, chat.